Hello everybody, hope everyone's doing great today. Appreciate those of you watching this video. I hope you enjoy it. Also appreciate those of you who have subscribed. Thank you very much. And today we're talking about Tombstone. Before I get into this, yes, I know the movie behind me playing is not Tombstone. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's because Amazon Prime took Tombstone off and I wasn't going to pay a subscription to MGM. So I got stuck with putting good, the bad, and ugly behind me. Enough about my trials and tribulations. Let's talk about Tombstone. But I do have a good reason for putting this movie on there behind me. Because if you ask the boomer generation, what is one of the greatest westerns of all time? Most likely they're going to say the good, the bad, and the ugly. But if you ask the Gen Xer what's one of the greatest movies of all time, you're most likely going to get the answer of Tombstone. And when this movie came out, everybody was talking about Tombstone. Everybody was quoting Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday. You know, I'm your Huckabee, stuff like that. Everybody loved Val Kilmer in this movie, and his performance is so great. It's a kind of a shame for Kurt Russell, because Kurt Russell does an awesome job playing Wyatt Earp. If it wasn't for the great performance of Val Kilmer, everybody would talk about, man, Kurt Russell really killed that movie, killed Wyatt Earp, whatever. He did a fantastic job portraying Wyatt Earp and Tombstone. But since Val Kilmer did a great job, everybody talks about Val Kilmer, and then they talk about Kurt Russell. Both of them did a fantastic job. Maybe one of Kurt Russell's greatest performances. It's hard to say. He does a great job in all his movies, but this has to be like one of his best performances in a movie. And then Val Kilmer, of course, does a fantastic job as Doc Holliday. This movie does have a great cast. If you blink, you might miss the performance of, I got his name written down. I don't know. Sometimes things just go over my head. Billy Bob Thornton. If you blink, you might miss the performance of Billy Bob Thornton. He's a little hefty in this movie. You wouldn't even recognize him. I barely recognized him. I recognized his voice before I recognized him. He's a little hefty guy in this one, but you know, because usually Billy Bob Thornton's like a slim, skinny dude. In this one, he got some pounds on him, kind of like I do. I used to be skinny, but now I'm not. But yeah, so you got him, you got Bill Paxton, you got Elliot. Is it Bill Elliot? See, this is the problem when you watch sports and movies, because there's a race car driver named Bill Elliott, so sometimes I get him confused. But you got Sam Elliott, maybe it's Sam Elliott, one of the Elliots, but he does a perfect job. Paxton does a great job to play the brothers of Wyatt Earp. Then you got good old Reese there from Terminator, Michael Bean, or whatever, however you say his name, being a villain in this movie, killing that role as Johnny Ringo. So you do get some great shootouts. The highlight of the movie is probably the OK Corral shootout there. Then that one, and then at the end where you got Doc Holloway versus Johnny Ringo walking around, and you got a little duel there, and you see how fast Doc Holliday really is. I wonder, sure, they kind of exaggerated or that shootout between Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo, but if that's how it really went down, that would have been pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. Like I said, fantastic gunshots, shootouts, whatever. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Trying to keep my eyes open at this time. Didn't drink any energy drinks for this video. Anyways, enough about I'm complaining about my time. Anyways, it's a great movie, great written. Like I said, you got iconic lines in this one, especially from coming out of Doc Holliday's mouth. You kind of really get the tragic story behind Doc Holliday. Maybe that's why he's also really rememberable. It's because, you know, you really feel for Doc Holliday and what he's going through. And he's kind of like the best friend that you would want if you had a friend, or you want to be. Like, you want to have this guy as your friend, and you want to be that friend, just like Doc Holliday. He has Wyatt Earp's back. Always supports him, you know, either behind the scenes or out in front. And if Wyatt Earp's wrong, he got his back. If he's right, he got his back. You know, it's like a pillar for a good old guy. And, you know, let's say where Wyatt Earp did kind of need a pillar there, especially how this movie is portrayed. His woman, some difficulties there. You know, everybody gets a happy ending, sort of, except for Doc Holliday, who dies, except for Wyatt Earp's first wife, who, you know, overdoses. And she really did overdose in real life. But they make it sound like she's like a druggie and like she did it on purpose in this movie. If I remember the ending right here, I didn't write it down. I'm just trying to remember top of my head. But you know, she really had some kind of ailments, and she was self-medicating. So it's probably accidental that she overdosed, and so it wasn't really suicide. Let's see what else. Also, did find the movie kind of interesting. How, you know, you thought how the big showdown is between Doc Holliday and John Ringo's character. That happens, and then, you know, that's when the movie should have kind of ended. But then we have another like 10 minutes of them chasing down the rest of the villains and shooting them down as Wyatt Earp's getting kind of revenge, basically, for the death of his brother, and then the other one getting shot, getting wounded. I will say, though, that the first hour of this movie is fantastic, but it does kind of drop off in quality after OK Corral. When we get to, like, when Bill Russell's Wyatt Earp leaves town, acts like he's leaving town, you know, to disarm the villain, the gang, the cowboy gang, and then he comes back. That part where he's actually chasing them down for the final time is kind of like the low part. Starts the climate movie going up. You get to the OK Corral, and it starts to slowly go down and get kind of draggy there at the end. But having said that, it's still a fantastic Western movie, especially for the early 90s. I did a review of Young Guns. Like I said, this is the time period I feel like was like the resurgence of Westerns in American theaters and American movies. Begins with like Young Guns, and then the height of it was probably Unforgiven and Tombstone. And then, you know, you kind of get there to Dances with Wolves. And then, excuse me, here I got a little message on my thing. Then you get with Dances with Wolves. And then it starts to go back down, you know, Quick and the Dead. It's still a pretty good Western, but it's not the best. And then, you know, Westerns start to get out of your sight, out of the movies for a while until they reappear later in the 2000s. But this is like the height of the resurgence of the Western movies. It's very well done, very well crafted. And like I said, all the Gen Xers, when I was growing up, we were all talking about Tombstone and how fantastic it was, how great Doc Holliday is. So if you're a Western fan, you haven't seen Tombstone, check it out. It is a must-see, especially for Val Kilmer's performance and Kurt Russell's. He does a fantastic job in this movie as well. He's right up there with Val Kilmer's performance. What do you guys think? Did you guys like Tombstone? Do you think it's one of the best Westerns? Or do you think it's mediocre? Let me know in the comments below. Interested in reading what your thoughts are on this movie, Tombstone. Have a great day. And until next time, bye.